Well, hello. This is the social hour here, and we're going to talk about tipping. And Michelle was just talking about her with getting her own tattoo and whether or not she should have tipped them, right? Is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, I did. Because I was always in the understanding if you have a service that you're happy with, that somebody provides, that you tip.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I know what you're saying, but I mean, yeah, I say give them a tip, but I also think maybe they should also get just a standardized wage if you're a server or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which I think like in restaurants, yes, they should pay them a decent, because a lot of people don't tip, and that's not fair. My daughter worked as a waitress for a while at an Olive Garden in a college town, and if somebody stiffed her on the bill, she had to pay it out of her tips. But if she didn't make enough tips, some nights she's like, she actually paid them to work. If she had a couple people, not pay.
That's what I was telling Matt too before you came in here, is that I was a server at one point too, and like I would have days where it was great because I would get tipped like above the 18-20%, and I would walk out of there feeling like really good. And then there would be other days where you're basically paying them to work. So yeah, it is kind of a,
well, that's what she said on College Town, like, you love Parents Weekend. Because when the parents came home, brought their kids out to eat, they all tipped.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And I also worked in a college, well, it wasn't really a college town, but I went to Wright State, and it was at Fairfield, so we did have a lot of college, kids that would come in, and they don't have money, so they wouldn't be the best tippers typically, but.
But, the question was that came up, I was reading on this site, was in restaurants where people are being paid, less than minimum wage. But what about cases like, your dog groomer, where they own the business and they're making, a certain, they're paying themselves a fair wage, or like
hairstylist,
a tattoo artist or a hairstylist that gets to keep most of what, they pay like rent for their space, but they get to keep most of what you pay them. In that case, I still think if they provide good service, you tip, but there's a lot of question about like, why and how much, and in what cases do you tip, and in Europe, if you tip, they're offended.
Yeah.
And so I'm like service industry is like, they must make a lot more money than what we do around here for people in service, because most of the people speak multiple languages and are very well educated.
And that's ironic because I had been doing some research on this, and in Europe, especially in Britain, that's where tipping was, got started. And then they brought it over to the Americans, they brought it over to the Americans because they wanted to seem cultured. And and then also there was a thing about the prohibition. There was a thing about the prohibition in it, because then they were saying, well, we're not making money with this, so you better take some of that guy's bribery money. And then there was also a thing about the civil rights, because when they weren't paying certain people, they were only make money on tips. They weren't even getting wages. So I don't know what you think about that.
Well, it makes sense. If Britain is where it started, it makes sense why the people in like France and Italy didn't like it.
Yeah. Because
they don't like the UK.
They were at war with. Those were a country that they were at war with. Had been war, and then Britain colonized half of the world a lot. But yeah, that's where I got started, because for decades it was not in in the U.S. And now, is it still in Britain?
I don't know. I haven't been in a while.
I know
We pretty much tip everywhere we go.
I know it's not.
Nobody's ever given it back.
No, I know in China and places like that, they don't want you to do it either.
But sometimes I think like places around here, like, with my dog groomer and stuff and things like that, you're asking them to do you a favor, and then sometimes you have to schedule, like sometimes I schedule on short notice. So I want them to think happy about me, when I call to schedule. So I think about that when I tip. I even joke with her. I'm like, how was my dog today? And she'll say he was wonderful. And I'm like, well, if I tip you first, will you tell me the truth? And so I'll tip her, and then she'll be like, well, if you could work on this. I'm like, see, I'm not going to not tip you because you're telling me I need to, work on something. But it's like, but I do want them to be happy to see me. And
Yeah, not dread when, oh no, it's this lady again.
And even with your hairstylist, it's like, there aren't very many good people around, and then they get overbooked. And so it's like, I want them to, like, I tip my nail person because I want her to remember to call me if she has a cancellation.
Yeah.
And she does a good job. I'm happy with the service. So
I don't know why dentist just popped into my head, but it's not like you would tip your dentist.
No. And then my husband and I talked about too, like, do you tip at a restaurant like in Las Vegas where you order at the counter and then you go get your own food at another counter and you go sit down, you clear your own table, then you get your receipt and it has a place for a tip.
See, I don't personally have places
We
like
don't
that,
either.
but that could be wrong. I don't know.
I mean, if the lady at the counter is like just really super helpful and making recommendations and really, then maybe. But we're like, who even gets that tip? Do they just keep it? Because nobody really waited on me.
So what do you
So I never
think? What do you think, Taylor?
I do think it depends on what service is being provided. I mean, I personally, like, I'll tip at, like, at a nail salon or hair salon. Like, if it's a service that's, that I'm receiving besides just, like Michelle said, if it's like a place where you pretty much do it all yourself, you're not actually getting, like, waited on. I typically don't, but that could be wrong. I don't know. They could see me walking in like, oh, there's that girl again. Doesn't give us tips. I don't know. But
Well, tell you, I used to never tip when I was younger. I guess I never
thought about it.
Well, I don't think I understood it.
Yeah.
I think in school they tried to teach us a little bit, but it wasn't until I got older, and then, I would just go out with my grandma sometimes, and we'd go to, not the fine dining restaurants or nothing, but I'd just go to, and I would put $1 down, and she put $1 down, and we didn't go by that. What is it?
The percentage.
The
like
percentage,
15,
no.
18, 20.
No. Of course, she always said, my mom said, oh, if you want to make them angry, leave a penny. And I'm like,
I don't want to make the people who are touching
I
my food
don't.
angry.
No, I don't want to.
Ever.
I've had some bad dining experiences, but I don't. I'm like, if something went wrong or my food wasn't cooked right or something, I'll tell them I ain't gonna leave a penny.
Right. And like, it's not your server's fault that the food was messed up. That's what, I would, as a server, people would get angry with me, and I was like, well, I'm sorry about your, about the food. I'll try to go get it fixed, but also I'm not the one cooking it, so it's not fair to take it out on me.
That's the other thing my daughter used to say, like if they were backed up in the kitchen or short-staffed in the kitchen. And she said sometimes she'd be back trying to cook her own food for her people because, she couldn't get it out. And, at the Olive Garden, some things you could just play, yourself. So if she could get it, she would try to do it because she's like, she would not get a tip because the people waited. And she would be like, I can't control that.
Right.
And so that was hard. But I think that what Matt said before about, especially like in the restaurant, if we want a tip, it should be like above and beyond thing. They should make enough to live on without that.
Yeah, they should.
I shouldn't feel responsible for tipping somebody so that they can,
Put food on their table.
survive.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I said, You want to tip them to say, hey, thanks, you did a good job. I mean, but then by that token, the you could say the same thing by the cook too, but you're not going to tip the whole thing. But
Some places they have to share their tip.
yeah.
Because I think they had to share like with the hostess and with other
Yeah,
people.
which I would prefer to not have to do that, because then that leaves some people working really hard, and then other people are like, whatever, like we're gonna share it all anyways. So I feel like it kind of
Yeah.
defeats the purpose.
Well, and I think like, not making enough to live on, it really should depend on, like my sister worked at like a Mexican restaurant. Well, Chi-Chi's, I don't think they have those around anymore, but when she was in college, and she made more money as a waitress than what her scholarship was. So she ended up giving up cross country and just working more hours, as a waitress. And it was like, that's crazy. But then other times, like my youngest daughter worked at Pizza Hut.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of high school kids go in there on Friday nights and, most of them, maybe leave $1 or something. Well, she was only making like $2 something an hour.
That's usually
And
what.
so, it wasn't even worth her time to, get dressed and go into work if she wasn't making, she'd work a shift and come home after taxes almost owing money.
It's funny you mentioned Pizza Hut, because I was talking about Pizza Hut last night with my aunt, and she said, you go in there at Pizza Hut, and they get served and things, and then I mentioned to her, I'm like, well, okay, well, how do they do that? Because that person, especially now, that person isn't just making. They're not just a server. They're going to be back there making pizzas and stuff, and stuff. So how do you separate server and whatever else they are supposed to do? Because
I'm sure they do the dishes sometimes.
Yeah.
Bussing tables, serving, like you said,
And then
making
again,
pizzas.
you're back to what you talked about. You have some people that are hustling and not making as much money because they're helping other people out while the other people are taking more tables and getting more tips.
That's why I say, me personally, just give the. Why doesn't the law change? I don't know if they're trying to change it now. I don't. And
So everybody makes a fair wage, and then if they get a tip, that's just a bonus.
Extra.
yeah, like, okay, yeah, if you're waiting tables this day, you can and they decide to give you a tip.
Especially in the this economy.
Yeah,
It's,
of course, it probably would fade out after a couple. Like, I don't know, your kids' generation would probably be the generation that would stop doing it, maybe.
I don't know, my kids are really generous tippers, but
No, I'm saying, say if.
you're probably closer to the age of my kids.
No, what I'm saying is, say if there was a law passed saying everybody's going to get the same minimum wage, standardized minimum wage, and then if you want to leave a tip, you can, but I mean, yeah, if you raised your kids right and stuff.
But see, I don't know if that's true, because I think that, like I was telling you, like my daughter who's, in her, 20s, late 20s, and all of her friends, like they'll go and, spend $1,500 or $3,000 on a tattoo and they'll tip 20%. And so I'm like, are you kidding me? Because they said, no, that's just right. And
Oh
so
my God.
if they would do that to somebody who just spent, just made over $100 an hour while they were with you, and
that's
if they'll still tip in that case, they would probably still tip at a restaurant if people made a fair, wage. I don't think that would change it for them. Because they just, that's just
and
how they think. They think if somebody, and again, they're thinking like I am, like, well, I might want to come back to that person and have something else done, or I might want to, make another appointment somewhere. So I want them to,
I still wish there was something that we got into this, not to sidetrack a little bit, but we were out a few weeks ago, and she was
Matt
showing.
didn't want to get a tattoo.
No, I don't want a tattoo. It's too permanent.
Just giving you a hard time. We went to pick up my dog, and the place right next door was a tattoo place, and it was just opening.
Oh.
And they were sitting out front like they had nothing to do. I'm like, oh look, Matt, they're not busy.
Me, I'm like, well, if they could come up with something you could put under your skin,
And change it.
or even like if there was something that you could lay on top and just program it to the design that you wanted.
like for that day.
Yeah, for that day, and like, yeah, okay.
That would be kind of cool.
Like-
I regret mine, so I wouldn't recommend.
Like, I'm not gonna put like, I don't have like. It's like, oh yeah, write your whatever your love interest at the time's name there.
Yeah, I would never do that.
But anyways, was my little rant about tattoos. But
Some of mine are back, but I don't regret any of them. But I was over 30 when I got them, so I was old enough to know
I
who
don't
I
think-
was and what I wanted.
Yeah.
I've seen some of your tattoos. I've seen one of the, well, at least the ones that are visible.
Oh,
But
they're all visible.
okay, good.
Just ankles and wrists and arms.
Yeah, I was gonna say they don't look bad to me. I mean, they're just a plane and a star, and
An arrow and a flower.
yeah. You didn't get the number, did you?
No, because I was gonna get the GPS coordinates for the family farm,
Oh, okay.
like right here on my arm.
Yeah.
But my daughter is engaged to someone who's Jewish, and they find numbers on you to be very offensive
Why not?
Really? Okay.
You know what she
Yeah.
could have did?
because of like the Holocaust and being forced to.
Okay.
You know what she
That
might
makes
she
sense,
could
yeah.
have done? Put a compass right in the middle between the numbers. That way they would.
Well, no numbers at all apparently.
Oh,
They found it very offensive, so I was like, oh, okay, never mind.
even if it's in, I don't know what Jewish. I know Jewish. There's a language that is Jewish. I don't know what they have a different set of.
Like
What?
Greek or Hebrew.
Uh,
I'm never doing that. I always think that's funny when you see the TV shows and somebody got a Greek or Hebrew or some kind of character or whatever, and that from The Big Bang. Do you watch that? The Big
What?
Bang Theory.
the Big Bang.
Oh, I have. Yeah.
And Penny had a tattoo, but it's actually for real. She actually has a tattoo that was supposed to say like strength or something, and it says soup.
Oh no.
It's like, why do you have the Chinese character for soup?
That's hilarious.
And that would be my luck.
I was
would
gonna
think
say
I was
that-
getting some like power or
Meaningful.
strength or something
Yeah.
really, like deep and theological or something, and it would be soup.
I've heard
Hey, I
that.
do like soup though, so
Right.
Yeah, I like.
it wouldn't be terrible. I mean, it could be worse.
That'd be a conversation piece, right?
Definitely
I
be
know,
worse.
right?
Somebody could really, tattoo artist could probably pull some pretty.
Oh, didn't you say the tattoo artist that did your tattoo? He was on that. What's that show called?
Ink Masters. Her
Ooh.
her brother was on Ink Masters.
Her
the guy
brother
that owned the
was
shop.
on. I watched maybe a couple episodes of that.
I find it, but I'm a people watcher. I love reality shows, and people just fascinate me.
I do. I love.
And
watching
they'll come
reality shows,
in
too.
and they're like, I want an alien Virgin Mary. You want
alien?
a what? That was when actually somebody did on the
what
show.
does that actually mean?
I can show
though?
you what it looks like. It's bizarre.
I know, but when I'm thinking of alien version,
But why?
Virgin
Who has
Mary?
that thought that? Or I want a clown with a rubber chicken on a carousel horse. I mean, these people. It's like, oh my gosh, who thinks of that stuff? And they have to wear it the rest of their life. I
it
just
would
find it
be,
amusing.
like, stressful to be a tattoo artist, and if you mess up, like, what do you do?
I know, because somebody wears it forever, right?
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
Oh, that's nice. It's the classic gray.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Are we talking classic gray? Is it a xenomorph, or is it like
Scary.
maybe an H.R. Giger type thing?
What's H.R. Giger?
Giger.
What's that?
He's he's the one who designed the alien for the movie Alien. He did a lot of
Okay.
he's done a lot of different stuff, but he let me see.
Oh no, that's creepy. It's a clown
Yeah, I know.
riding. Is he riding a rubber chicken?
Rubber chicken.
On a carousel. Wow.
I know. I'm
His
like,
face just looks like mean.
I just find people really fascinating. I love to watch reality shows because you're just like,
It is
How?
funny to like just see what different types of personalities
Giger.
and backgrounds that people have in the world and how they.
and sometimes I'm like,
React.
your grandma could be watching this. Would you
HR
really want your grandma
Giger.
to see you saying that? You know?
I know. I think that too on a lot of shows. It's like really like because some
HR
people they'll
Giger.
get like.
Or when the
just-
people come in at the like on Ink Masters, they come in at the end and do like a full back tattoo with no say in it at all. They're just open to anything.
Oh geez, that's scary.
And I'm just like, who signs up for that kind of craziness?
Okay. Here's a picture of him.
Okay. Jeez, he looks kind of scary.
He's like, I think he's Dutch.
His eyes are black.
But he's the first one who really did this. Oh God, I don't know what it's called. Biomechanoid stuff. This is some of his artwork.
It's very interesting. It looks
Yeah.
pretty like satanic.
It's not where he was coming from. He said they were in his nightmares, though. But
Oh,
it's
yeah.
more. He called it biomechanoid.
I don't want somebody's nightmare tattooed on me.
No,
But a lot of
I feel like you're just
people-
welcoming evil into your life.
What?
I feel like that would just be welcoming evil into your life.
Well-
evil spirits or something.
Well, that's where they got the idea for the xenomorph in Alien.
Okay.
But it's they looked at it as he said it's biomechanoid plus also sexuality and
Interesting.
sorry we got sidetracked a little
We
bit
did.
from the tip but no, I just think give them minimum wage, a decent minimum wage, and then if you want to tip, you can tip. That's basically what I say.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
I would like to feel like it's optional right now. I kind of don't feel like it's optional most places.
Oh no.
Especially
Well,
in restaurants when you know they're not making.
it is optional,
Ouch.
but
But not when you know they're not making any money. You know, it's like I feel bad
Yeah.
for somebody who, because I know how hard they work. I would stink at the job.
well,
Yeah.
I have a story. I don't if my sister hears this, I don't know how she's going to take it, but I got a story about my sister. I took my sister, well, I didn't take them, but we went out to, what is that place called? The Golden Corral, one of my favorite places to go. What?
I agree.
Not a fan. I feel like it's overpriced and like for bad quality food.
I don't know.
And I'm a germaphobe, so everybody's touched all that
Well,
stuff,
back in
so
the
I'm out.
well, back
Yeah.
when we went, I don't think it was. I use, but
I've only been there once, so that I guess maybe that I don't have.
Again, germaphobe. I'm not a buffet person.
You're a skinny mini.
Well, I also when I went, I was really hungry and
I
I
know.
barely ate anything, so it wasn't worth the money because I think it's what like $20-some
Per
plate,
no,
right?
No.
I thought it was like at least 20 something, and then I only ate enough
Oh,
for it to
God.
even, I only ate like mac and cheese or something. So it was like I just paid, I didn't pay for it. My stepdad did, but like felt bad that he paid $20-some.
I
for
wouldn't
me
pay
mac and
no
cheese.
$20 for that. It's not that much. It's
I thought it was
It's like-
because it's all you can eat. So and
yeah,
they
but
have
it's like
steak and stuff.
15. It's like 15 plus what? It's like 15, and if you get a drink, it's more.
Right. I don't know. I just remember thinking because I had tried some of the different food that they had, and I didn't like anything but the mac and cheese. And I'm not a picky eater at all, so I was like, yeah, I won't be coming back here. But it could have been the location. I don't know. It was the one in Springfield, so.
That's where I went to. That's where we usually go to.
Okay.
But I love it. I mean, I love the grill, the different. But anyways, I went there with my sister and my nephew. Miss that little guy. And we the waitress, all she does, she takes the trays, the plates, and she refills your drinks and stuff. And I paid for their meal that day, and then she says, "Oh, hey, you want me to get the tip?" My sister says, "You want me to pay for the tip?" I was like, "Sure." But then she said, "Oh, I don't have any cash on me," because she usually just pays everything with a credit card. So I said, "If you pay it, I'll pay you back." So there you go. I laid down like maybe $2. She just goes, "Huh, is that all you're gonna do?" And I said, "Yeah." Then I got in my wallet again and I put down 2 more. And she acts like that's not even enough. I was just like I ain't. So she just goes up to the cash register, gets money out of her card, and then I think that's what happened. And then she puts. I'm like okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just typically I usually do 20% if they did a good job. Well, actually, I pretty much always do 20%, whether they did a good job or
You
not.
want to do more if they do a good job.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll do a little bit more, but typically it's standard for me to be like 20% anywhere I go.
Well, like Alcove, I love Alcove Restaurant. It's one of the best places because the service and the waitresses and I usually leave a $5 tip there after I'm done, no matter what. So.
Yeah, that's what sometimes I don't always do percentage because sometimes it depends on, like, I don't know if I go and I just get the special at Alcove and then I feel bad leaving $1 because it's like, gosh,
It's not very much.
should somebody even walk over to my table for $1? It's like not their fault that the special is cheap.
Yeah.
And so I always think about, or like, depending on like if you get something done, sometimes I'll round it, just
Okay.
instead of, I try to do at least 20%, but like I might round it. And like it depends too, because when you get your hair done, sometimes you're there for like hours and hours. And it's still almost the same price as it was when you were only there for like a lot less, because they spend a lot more time but still charge, the same. And so sometimes in that case too, I feel bad because I know that was so many hours that she couldn't make any more money. And I tip more for like my hair since COVID, because before COVID, like I would, leave the chair and sit somewhere else, and then they'd cut, maybe they might cut 2 or 3 people's hair while they were coloring mine. And now they can't, do that. And so then I feel bad that they're, like if she's coloring my hair, she's lost like 3 or 4 haircuts. So I
Mine
feel
will
responsible
still
for
do
that.
haircuts, like especially if it's like a men's haircut. Like she will do that while I'm in the other chair waiting on the the color to process or whatever. But I'm typically there for like 3 hours, so I always do try to tip like pretty well because I feel bad that she's. I mean, it is a hard. I wouldn't be able to be a hairstylist.
Well, and she
takes a lot of time to do that.
Sometimes
stuff.
we'll do a guy's cut now, but for a while where I went, they weren't allowed to have another person in their area at the same time because of COVID protocol.
Oh.
And so it's like, then I would feel really bad that she just lost, maybe 3 other clients.
Yeah. Yeah, that would stink.
So.